Hello everyone. Well, it's another beer review. Got a bloody itchy back now. Oh my god. Anyway, so what beer are we doing today? Here you ask. Well, we're doing an India Pale Ale from Neame's Fashion Brewery. So this is a 6.1%. Apparently it's still flagging itself as Britain's oldest brewer. And, oh god, the spiel on the back. Now again, I got this from the Asda 4.3. As you can probably tell, going by the reviews that I've done. I bought quite a few beers over that. And it was a pregnancy warning. Alcohol can cause lifelong harm to your baby. No proof of it. Anyway, yeah, so it's a Kentish beer. But yes, I think it was £2.25 again. They're all kind of based around about £2.25, but then of course you're doing 4 for 3. So then of course it would basically get one for free. So it's dropping it below the £2 mark, which I think is a bit of a con because a lot of these beers aren't normally kind of £2.25. So I think Asda's playing kind of little games on it. So they are. But yeah. So what does it say? A historic brew which conjures up images of high seas, not the high seas, but high seas and faraway places. An IPA encapsulates centuries of brewing tradition. See, it's really quite small, and I'm trying to get it because I've got bifocals, so the cases I'm just trying to get the angle right so I can read the bloody thing. A quintessentially strong and hoppy beer with a bold, stirring character. What the fuck does all this mean? Seriously. I'm sitting reading this and you're thinking, they're talking about it, they got fucking mad. It's a beer. They're trying to be mystical, and it's like they're all trying to kind of copy the old kind of whiskey tradition, especially Scotch whiskey. Oh, the mist is rolling through the hills, and Jeannie's getting one right up the. Anyway, and the stags are baying in the background, and all the water's trickling at me, and we're making wonderful whiskey, and it's all marvellous, and Jeannie's having a crisis, and days back to the. Anyway, so what does it say? Our India Pale Ale delivers a magnificently, Our India Pale Ale delivers this magnificently, pale in colour and generously bittered with locally grown Fuggles hops. The high hop rate in this brew originally protected the beer during its arduous journey across the continent. Those same Kentish hops notes can now be enjoyed for their own sake in this original recipe from Britain's oldest brewery. There you go. So anyway, at least it's a case as though it's not more of a kind of a citrus-based kind of hoppiness. It's a kind of traditional Fuggles. So there you go. What this label is issued by Neame Company, 500ml. Alcohol, 6.1. So let's crack it open and see what it's like. After reading all that pish. Oh, no, I'm getting more traditional ale vibes, which is nice. I might enjoy this. I hope to bloody enjoy this actually. Right. Yeah, it's about one finger head for the people in the podcast. It's a nice kind of copper colour, so it's a nice kind of rich copper colour. Aroma-wise, light malt, and that's really it. Maybe a slight metallic-y kind of smell. Yeah. Not really getting any hop aromas. There's no floralness around that, none of that. Yeah, just getting light, and I'm talking about light malt. In fact, the aroma is actually quite weak in all aspects. Kind of lacking aroma. So, let's see what it tastes like. Get little honey tones at the back end with a light bitterness. Yeah, there is a slight metallic greenness to it. So there is ever so slight. Overall, it seems quite nice. Seems a nice level of ball. Body's quite good. Just like me. Yeah. Again, there's not any kind of lingering bitterness. The Fuggles doesn't really do that. It's not a kind of hop that gives a lingeringness, and it's not really one for giving bitterness either, really, let's be totally honest. So there isn't really a bitterness there. There's a bit, but not much. And overall, it's a fairly kind of clean finish, nothing lingering. Right now, it's a case as though I've got no flavours right now in my mouth that is associated with the beers. So there you go. Maybe a little bit more carbonated, just a tad more carbonated than I would probably want it to be, or feel it needs to be. I'm not saying it's affecting the mouthfeel, it isn't, but it's giving a bit of an effect to the mouthfeel that, although it's not really conducive, it needs to be just slightly less. But yeah, it's fairly kind of easy drinking. You maybe get a little bit of alcohol feel off it as well at 6.1%. It's a little bit, not saying it's affecting, but you are kind of noticing it a little bit. And bloody hell, I do apologise. But yes, like I said, it's a little bit more gassy than it needs to be, and that's one of the things I'm quite kind of sensitive to, as you've probably noticed. A lot of times I don't have any problems, but if I turn around and say it's maybe slightly more, even though it's not kind of having such a huge effect on the mouthfeel, if I say it's a little bit more kind of carbonated than it needs to be, or it should be in my view, then trust me, it usually will have me riffing or burping, whatever you want to call it. Breaking wind. Just be glad it's coming out of the top half. But yeah. So yeah, it's a bit kind of strange that. You think you'd maybe want it just a little bit less. Especially Shepherd Neame that obviously does cask ales and everything else. But yeah, just there's a little bit just hanging there. Excuse me. And yeah, it's a bit annoying. Yeah, there was a little bit more bitterness there. A little bit. But again, not too much really, to be totally honest. Yeah, maybe a little bit of kind of hoppy bitterness, but that really should be coming from the Fuggles unless they've really over. But again, you're not getting the other flavours so much associated with the Fuggles either. For a hopped beer, you're not really noticing the hops so much, and it's supposed to be quite a heavy hop beer. But overall, I would say that all the flavours are quite nice. I just feel there isn't enough of them. I mean, yeah, I'm getting a nice malt flavour there, but none of the flavours are very clear or distinguished. And I also feel that they're quite one-dimensional. It's kind of lacking. I mean, it's like, it almost feels like all the flavours are just kind of base flavours. And there's no real kind of accent flavours coming across as to kind of, zhuzh it up and just kind of make it a bit more interesting. What I'm getting is it's a nice beer, but not particularly exciting and not really particularly interesting. It's very kind of, well, what we've done is we've put some good base ingredients in there and we've made a good base ale out of it. And there's nothing untoward with it, there's nothing offensive in it and everything else, which is all true. But there's no excitement to it. It's like that. It's like going to, a theme park and you're just in the merry-go-round. And while the merry-go-round is quite enjoyable and everything else, it's not exactly the most exciting thing in the world, but it's like going to the theme park and just spending the day just riding the merry-go-round. You think, this is nice. Oh, merry-go-round again, is it? Right, okay. It's like that, and it's like every time you take a sip, merry-go-round. And it's not really changing. It's just, so I'm now kind of almost halfway down the glass and I'm like, oh, it's merry-go-round again. At this point I'm kind of thinking, what else have we got in the fridge? It's like that, thinking, something else hopefully. Maybe try something else. And you feel that kind of way about it. That's the kind of thing that's what I'm trying to kind of get across. It's not bland, but it's a bit boring. But yeah, overall, it's okay. Right, flavour-wise, again, kind of slightly golden syrupy tones, maybe a little touch of toffee, a little light hint of toffee in the front of the mouth. A little bit of grain, a little bit of sweetness. Move on to the mid-tongue, and it's really kind of taking the kind of front of the mouth flavours and replicating them slightly on a lesser degree than the front of the mouth, but still basically the same box standard flavours you were getting with the front of the mouth, but just a slightly less intensity, and that just runs from front to back. So it does. And as it starts getting to the kind of transition between the mid-tongue and the back of the mouth and the aftertaste, that's when you start gaining a bit of bitterness, but you're starting to get more of a kind of presence of hops rather than the flavour of hops. So you're starting to get a kind of presence of kind of hops, but you're not really getting any kind of bitterness or the hop flavours that really kind of go with it. So you feel that, yeah, the best way to describe it is you get more of a sensation of hops than you do of flavours of hops. And maybe that's because maybe the hop oils or something like that. So you're picking up the hop oils in the kind of back of the mouth, but the flavour, the intensity isn't really matching it, and that's what it kind of feels like. So it feels kind of hoppy at the back end, but not so much in the flavour. And then everything just kind of dissipates quite cleanly and all kind of together, and nothing lingers. And the only thing you end up getting is just near the back end of the mid-tongue is maybe getting a slightly kind of feeling of alcohol. So you're feeling it's a little bit higher in alcohol than, say, a standard beer, and that's it. And overall, none of the flavours are offensive in any way, shape or form, but they're just a bit boring. It's a nicely brewed beer, but it just needs something to give it a bit of zing, something to kind of make it stand out. And yeah, and it's not changing as the more I drink it. It's exactly the same. There's quite a decent level of sweetness. I'm not saying it's overly sweet, but you do notice there's an okay level of sweetness there. I mean, overall, it's a nicely brewed beer, and the flavours that are there are very nice and everything else, but you just want something a little bit more. So I'm going to say slightly on the kind of flavour front, it's just slightly kind of boring and lacking. I know you probably feel that I'm repeating myself, but I'm just trying to kind of convey that and get it across. So what would I give it a 10? There's a question. I mean, for the flavours that are there and the kind of quality it feels and everything else, because it feels like it's kind of decent enough ingredients and everything else, and it's nicely brewed, maybe slightly a little bit more carbonated than it needs to be. But overall, I would say it's quality-wise, I would probably say it's above average. But flavour-wise, I would probably say maybe just slightly below. Just because of it's a bit boring. So on that basis, I'm going to try and be a bit fair to it. So I'm going to give it 5.5. Because quality-wise, it is above average. Or whether maybe it's just down to me that I'm looking for something a bit more that just isn't going to be there, but other people will be quite happy with it. That's why I'm going to be fair. So I'm going to give it on the basis of quality, and it feels nicely brewed and everything else, and there's a kind of nice balance to it. But I'm not going to take anything off for just finding the flavours a bit boring and a bit uninteresting. So I'm going to just give it a 5.5, and I think that's a kind of fairer score. So yeah, so it's a 500ml, it's 6.1%, it's I would recommend it. I wouldn't buy it again myself, but I would recommend it for people to give it a try if you haven't tried it and see what you think. There is hops there, but there's not a strong kind of hop flavour. There's more of a sensation of hops rather than hoppy flavours. And overall, yeah, you might like it if you want kind of more of a kind of good base kind of traditional ale. But at 6.1%, it's not really sessionable, and this is another thing. 6.1%, you want it to kind of maybe have a little bit more complexity to the flavours, and it doesn't. So you can't really have it say it's below. With this type of thing, if it was less alcohol, it'd be a bit more sessionable and you could maybe get away with it. But because it's 6.1% alcohol, and then the flavours are just kind of a bit uninteresting, it just doesn't really quite work, because for the alcohol content, you expect something a bit more complex, and you're not getting it. So I think it's probably a better way to describe it. So yeah, 6.1%, 500ml, 5.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Cheers, and bye for now.